Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Monkey Wrench. I'm Kelly, the monkey with the wrench. Today we're going to be finally getting around to doing the impeller on this Mercury 7.5 horse. Now if you're working on these old Mercs, and this is a late 70s, early 80s, they come in various sizes from 7 horse all the way to 9.8, and the motors are basically the same. So when you're talking about the impeller or several other parts, carburetor rebuild kits, stuff like that, you're going to want to check your serial numbers and try to match what you got going on, but those parts are pretty much interchangeable.
Please subscribe.
So we're going to start by taking out this bolt right here, and the other bolt is right here on the back side. Now this does not have enough space the way the bolt comes up to be able to pull that out. So what I do is take off the back one first over the propeller, and then as I loosen this, the lower unit must drop in order for the bolt to recede enough to get that nut out. That's the hardest part. Well, putting it back together is usually a banger. We're going to go ahead and get you set up in the tripod. The nut right above the impeller is a 1/2 inch, and the one on the back side is a 9/16. You can get away with using a 15. You must use a box wrench back here. Up here you can use a standard socket. Make sure we're going in the right direction. Remember, don't force anything. You can always use a little bit of leverage, but this stuff is not made of the strongest material in the world. So if things get a little bit tight, put lube on it. These should be nylon locking nuts to stop them from vibrating off. If you pull yours off and it's just got a regular nut on there, replace it with a nylon locking nut. Sometimes I see when I pull these apart, somebody lost the nylon locking nut, or originally they had a regular nut with a lock washer on there, and then somebody pulled off the nut, lost the lock washer, didn't think it was important to put this back on. If either one of these two vibrate out, you can screw up your entire lower unit over one bolt. So replace them for the 50 cents. Go to the store and get it and replace it. Now this thing hasn't been taken apart in a minimum of 25 years. The guy that I got it from said it belonged to his father. He loved it, he used it. Then he passed and he never messed with the motor, the son. Now I can already see that this thing is separating and coming down. Sometimes it gets stuck when it's been setting for so long. And you have to use a rubber mallet. If you don't own a rubber mallet, get yourself an old piece of wood and a regular hammer and use the wood in between to soften the blow of the hammer. Or if you're like me and you have Hulk hands, just pat it with your hand. Don't lose your nuts. I've seen people try to do this without taking it off the boat. I think that's a little ridiculous. Considering if you drop anything in the water, you're never going to find it. So let's just pop that out. That comes out like so. What you saw just fall out is your water pickup. Mine is really dirty. It goes in this hole right here, just like so. Mine's a little bit bent on the end. I'm going to go ahead and clean that up before I even put it back in. Let's get this over to the bench and I'll show you what we're dealing with. I'm just going to take a second and wipe this down. There's a lot of slime on this one. And if you keep your fingers a little bit slime free when you're doing it, it'll make your life a little bit easier. Make sure this turns freely. For those of you that do not realize, most outboards turn clockwise. They turn just like the face of a clock. So if you're not sure how something goes in or out, just remember when you pull the impeller that it turns clockwise, and that way you know you have the fins going in the correct direction. I'm just getting a little bit of this crap off of here. This is your shifter knob here. Do not turn that. Okay? I leave mine in neutral when I pull mine out. Do not turn that. It doesn't turn easily. You'd actually have to turn it pretty hard. But don't turn that, because when you put that back, you want that to line up exactly where you took it out so that your shifter will shift correctly. You can turn your shaft all you want, and as you can see, when I turn the shaft, it turns the prop. Now, I don't have a vise. There's a lot of tools I don't have, but that doesn't stop me from working on this stuff. If anybody's been watching my channel a long time, I do all this stuff with very basic tools, and I add to my tool collection as I can. So don't be afraid to work on this stuff if you don't have the fancy tools that you see people working on them with. I don't even own a rubber mallet, but I do own a piece of old wood that I can use so that I don't beat on something and break it. So there we go. Now we're going to take out these two nuts, and behind these two nuts are also two washers. Do not lose those. Again, those are locking nuts, and I believe they're 1/2 inch as well. Nope, they're smaller than 1/2 inch, so let me get a right socket. Okay, this is the part that intimidates most people, and you really shouldn't. It may look difficult until you've done it for the first time, but I promise you it's not that bad. In this case, I'm using an 11mm, mostly because I can't find the correct one in regular. But all we're going to do is take off these two nuts. One you'll be able to use a regular socket on, the other one I'm going to have to get a box wrench now that I think about it. Now you don't want to drop these down inside, so even in a vise I would have this thing sticking out, so if this thing fell, it wouldn't fall down into the body there. It always falls where you can get it. Oh good, I can get a ratchet on both of them. So I see so many people stick these in a vise where they're straight up and down, and then they drop the nut and it goes down into the body here somewhere and they can't find it. Nor do I like having to go to the store to replace something that I could have just paid more attention to. Now you'll see water coming out of there. There's usually a rubber O-ring right on the top of this cover as well. This thing has been in the water for the last few weeks in my barrel. So it's got water where it's supposed to be. There's no problem with that. Just wiggle that off. I also see people that don't know what they're doing. They think that a gasket needs to go here between the lower unit and the middle section of the motor. So they use like gasket sealer, Permatex, stuff like that. There is nothing that goes between this lower unit and the middle section of the motor. This entire thing sucks water on the inside, so having the ability to pull water in through there is not a big deal. Do not put any kind of gasket sealer on that at all. And I'm going to back up the camera a little so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to show you. It just slides off. Make sure that everything's in place. Nothing's really supposed to move. Nothing's supposed to be cracked. Anything like that. You can take a little rag and you can clean out any gunk you see. I'm probably going to get a little bit of carb cleaner and shoot it in there and make sure that everything's out of there. This again is where your water pickup goes, so it's not real big deal, but you just don't want any dirt in there that doesn't have to be in there. And I can blow through it so I know it's clear. There's a little pinhole in the bottom right here, and if you look at it just correctly, look through there, you can see that little hole. You want to make sure that that's not filled up with any dirt or grime. That's why I'm going to clean that out with a little bit of spray. Now I got this top plate right here, which I'm going to go inside and get No, I don't have to. I can get this thing out. If you can't pull yours out, just get a little pick, one of those little L-shaped picks, and you can pull it out. And if you look on here, there's a little nub that sticks up on one side and a little nub that sticks down in the opposite direction. One is horizontal and one is vertical. The horizontal one, or the one that goes left to right, fits down in here, and you'll find there's a little sleeve for that to fit right into, so you can't put that in incorrectly. It only goes in one way in one spot. Wow, no wonder this thing wasn't pumping any water. See if I can get you closer and show you why. There's where the impeller is supposed to be, and I can see that all the rubber arms have busted off of this thing. They get dry rotted over the years, and then you go and use it and all the arms just pop off. I'll show you it when I pull it out against the new one. Alright, now you remember that game when we were kids called Operation, where you had to get inside and pluck stuff out without touching the side? Well, clearly you can touch the sides on this. There's one of the little rubber arms right there that just broke off. But that's what this always reminds me of. If you haven't seen one yet, that's what the new impeller looks like. There are two different sizes. Make sure that you have the correct one that goes on the correct shaft. Back in the day, they used two different size shafts. The circumference of the hole should be the same, but one shaft is a little bit thicker than the other. So if you buy the wrong one, then you may not be able to get it on there. Now, underneath of this, as I pull this out, because there's a keyway in there, there's also a key. Make sure you do not lose that key, because if you don't put that key back in with the new impeller, it won't work, because there'll be nothing to lock it to the twisting shaft, and so it won't turn. And if it doesn't turn, it doesn't make water pump and cool the engine. So I'm just going to pull this up and off. Now my key is still in there where it's supposed to be, which is perfectly fine. I'm not even going to take it off. If it does fall off or fall out, what you want to do is just take a little dab of grease and stick it in the hole. Then put the key back in the hole just like in a lawnmower, and the grease will act like a glue and hold it temporarily for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this and put it on. And remember that this thing turns clockwise. I need to know where my little keyway is. And the keyway is on that one. So I'm going to turn it a little bit this way. And basically you just want to kind of twist and turn and push until you get all these little arms to fit in where they're supposed to. If you get them to go in and they go in the wrong way, you can turn them slightly. You can turn them the opposite way with a screwdriver. This is always the hardest part, is getting these little things to turn in where you want them to go. Sometimes you can just feed it in and they'll kind of turn out of the way when you push it down. The thing about this, and if you watch my videos, you know that I don't fast forward and cut things out if I don't have to. The thing about this is just be very careful when you're trying to feed these in. Even if you feed them in the incorrect way, just to get it to go on to the shaft where it belongs. And in this case, I've lost where my keyway is. I'm going to pull it back out just so I don't lose my bearings. There's my keyway. So instead of trying to show you that through the magic of editing this is not a difficult task, I don't do that crap on my videos. I show you just how hard things can be getting them in there. Now it is just rubber, so don't cut it by pushing on it with a screwdriver. But if you can get it to get in there and get started, as long as you're gentle and you don't force things, you can usually get it to work. And if you start getting frustrated, just take a break It's not like it's going to hurt anything if you take a minute and clear your head. All I'm trying to do is flip these little flippers sideways enough to get it started. So that I can push it down onto the keyway without losing the keyway, without forgetting where it's supposed to be. When it's on there where it's supposed to be, you'll find that it stops twisting. And it can be quite a pain in the ass to get this done. And if it's not on the keyway, it won't even push down. So once you get it to push down just enough, there we go. It doesn't matter which way the fins are at this very second, because I can move those with a screwdriver. And remember, it turns clockwise. The bit that's important right now is getting it down on that keyway without losing that key. Now I can turn it, you see. And even though some of them are turned the incorrect way, I can fix that pretty easily with a screwdriver, you see. Just go gently, it's just rubber. And if you get your screwdriver in there and you twist it just a little bit, try and stay on the edge the best you can. And turn it while you do it. And now all of my flaps are spinning in the correct direction. Let me see if I can get you closer and show you that. It's always going to turn clockwise. You can see my hand turning clockwise. And that means that those flippers should be off to the left. That way, when it turns clockwise, it's not pushing the tip of that flipper against something. It's allowing it to drag instead of push against. So once you have that, and you know that the impeller is pushed all the way down, and again, remember, don't push too hard and don't use a sharp screwdriver or you'll cut it. Now I know that it's in the right position because when I stick my screwdriver in there against it, I can't turn it. I can't turn the shaft without the impeller turning, and that's what you want. You just want to make sure that it's there, that it's in place, and that it's as far down as it needs to be. Once it's down all the way and you can twist it and it's all the flippers are turned in the right direction, just make sure that you got it down. We're going to put our top plate back on it. Remember, the horizontal one, or the one that goes along with the edge of your washer, goes down, and there's a spot right there. You'll find it and you'll feel it fall in. And once it does, it locks it in place so that it cannot turn. And you might have to take it off a couple of times to make sure. There could be dirt in there. You might have thought it was in one place and it's in another. See, in this case, I thought it was down here, but it's up here next to the stud. So I just want to go ahead and turn it. There we go. Now it's in where it's supposed to be. And the little nub that goes crossways sticks up. The one that goes horizontal or along the edge of that washer goes down into that groove. And now that's locked back in place. Now there's plenty of kits out there that come with new pickup tube here and that kind of stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this out real quick and I'll be right back. Now another thing that I don't do on my videos is lie to my people or pretend everything's okay when it's not. Again, I'm gonna show you that old impeller. There's no fins left on it whatsoever. When I took this cap off, there was no rubber washer on the top of it. Now I am a huge proponent of putting things back together exactly the way I took them apart. So in this case, I'm going to assume that the manufacturer did not put a rubber gasket on top of there. If I run this motor and it doesn't pee correctly or something's going on with it, then I will worry about pulling this lower unit back off just to put a rubber O-ring on there. But in the meantime, if you come across a situation like that where you do not have a rubber washer, do not add one. I've learned over the years that if you attempt to add parts because you think they belong there, you can screw things up all on your own. And I'll take that part off camera and put this on there. I have no idea. I'm completely dumbfounded at this point. That's why that happened. I only took the correct two nuts with me, and that's what I'm fighting on the machine right now. The only two nuts I took with me. I found the bolt to fit them, and then I found the correct nut to fit that bolt. I've done it a million times, probably in reality 10,000 times in the last 30 years, and it didn't work. Now don't tighten that down too hard because this is just plastic. Tighten it down good enough. They're back on. Now that's it as far as that's concerned. Let's take this back over and see if we can put this unit back together. Alright, let's see how easy or hard this thing is going to be to put back on. Thankfully, it's not very heavy. It might weigh 8 or 9 pounds. So it's pretty easy to work with. What you're interested in is making sure that your water intake goes up on the sleeve. I cannot show you that, unfortunately, but there is sort of a pipe that comes down, a water intake pipe that comes down and fits into that little plastic deal that I showed you that I took out. So once you know that that's in the right spot, you can just kind of wiggle it and work it up. You also want to make sure that your gear shift goes in the correct spot. Ah, look at that. And that time it just slid right in place. Now you might have to get your hammer, which I'm going to get a block of wood to tap on that with. You don't want to be too harsh on it. But when your water tick up and the splines on your shaft match up correctly, see, that was a little bit too far. I forgot to put my nut in. There's not enough room. So I just want to drop it low enough to be able to get my nut up in there. And I believe it was the larger of the two. So if I could just now get my nut up in there, got to come down just a tad bit more without popping it all the way out again. And now it doesn't want to move. See, it's always something. And if I get up in there with some leverage with a screwdriver, I don't want to pop it all the way back out. This is one of those times where I can't get between the camera and what I'm doing to show you. I'm just putting this in there and giving it just a little bit to pull it down enough to get this nut on. It just has to feed into that hole without actually pulling the whole lower unit off again. There we go, that got it. Now that it's on and in place, I'm going to do the same thing as before with my hand and push that back up as far as I can. And there is a rubber gasket in between here. I didn't see it before, but there is one in there. Now I can take my wrench and I can go ahead and tighten that up. And aside from having to run to the store, you basically saw everything except for me pausing the camera maybe to go in and look for a screwdriver or to have to look for a different socket or something. So what you're seeing is basically real time. It doesn't take very long to work on these. Changing an impeller shouldn't take up half of your day. It should take up maybe an hour of your life. And after you've done it a few times, if you're not trying to film it, it'll probably only take you about 20 minutes to get it done. I do these videos because if this monkey can do it, any monkey can do it. And I don't want you guys to be afraid to work on your own stuff. As we film right now on my barbecue grill, I have 2 more of my cast iron pans that I found in the street in the garbage that were full of rust that someone threw away, that I have sanded down to get rid of the rust, and they're seasoning right now. Seasoning number 4 is being done on my barbecue grill as we speak. Cast iron is something that will last you an entire lifetime. People don't want to deal with it. It's too much work, which I don't see why, because it's easier to clean than a regular pan. But whatever, they throw stuff away, and that drives me crazy no matter what it is. If it's still good, why throw it away? I found a cast iron pot. There's a short on my channel right now from a couple of months ago where I was driving down the road and I saw 3 cast iron pots sitting on the street at the garbage. And I stopped and grabbed them, and it got like 20,000 views or something. And then I come to find out that one of them is a Warren from 1938, and it's worth about $1,500. Now, I'm never going to sell it, but somebody threw away a $1,500 pot that a collector would buy, and that to me is a bit ridiculous. So I cleaned it up. It took me maybe an hour to get it cleaned up, and then some time to get it seasoned, and I cooked with it yesterday. So I want you guys to know that you don't have to be intimidated when you're dealing with something like this, whether it's a lawnmower or a generator or a motorcycle. Your car is a different story. There's so many computers in the stupid cars. I don't even work on cars anymore. Older cars I will, but not the newer stuff. Leave that to the guys with the computers and all that crap. But the rest of this stuff is easy enough to work on that you can use your $20 set of ratchets from Walmart and a couple of hand tools, and you can work on this stuff yourself. Now, I'm not going to post this video until I start this motor. I rebuilt the carburetor on it, and I'm probably going to get it running tomorrow because all it needs is gas, but I'm not going to the gas station right now. So hopefully in a minute you're going to see this thing run, and you're going to see that the impeller works now and it's pissing water the way it's supposed to. So I want to say thank you. Before the end of the video, yesterday was a huge deal. We actually broke 9,000 subscribers. I've been talking about it in the last few videos that we're almost there. We're almost there. Yesterday we passed 9,000 subscribers. We're on our way to 10,000 subscribers. And it's not even Thanksgiving yet. Halloween was last week. Now when you'll see this video, I don't know, because I upload and schedule them 3 and 4 weeks ahead in advance. So thank you. Check it right now. Go to my channel, make sure you're subscribed. Check it, see how many subscribers we're at, and leave it in the comments, because if I'm well past 9,000, I'd love to hear it from you guys. Thank you so much for following me on this journey as we build this channel. Let me know if there's anything else I can do for you guys. Hit the like button. It only takes 500 likes to get a video trending, and that will help my channel so much. So please, if you do nothing else, just hit the like button. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing.